Yes!
Sila pang nag-motivate.
Pasok, umagang kay ganda.
Hi there, creatives! Welcome back to JM TV. In this episode, I'll be showing you the full recording that I did with the podcast couple Langa Speaks. So I'll be showing you the video. And a little disclaimer though, I did not ask permission that I will republish this. So I don't put this into a public setting. Instead, just personal? Oh, the other option. Alright, so let's enjoy watching. And here is Langa Speaks with yours truly, JM Kayne.
Hello, brothers and sisters. Welcome to the Mission 24/7 Studios for the 2022 World Singles Congress Beyond Bounds. I'm Sister JM from MFC UAE, and I am your host for tonight. Nako, excited ako tonight kasi alam kong marami sa inyo ang naka-tune in at siguradong makaka-relate kayo sa topic natin today. We will be talking about dating and relationship. And sigurado akong marami sa inyo ang napagdaanan na, pinagdadaanan, or maybe some of you would think, kailan ko kaya ito maranasan? Alright, so tonight's studio, we will be talking about dating, courtship, and relationship. Where do we draw the line? Our guest for tonight is the beautiful couple behind the podcast, Langa Speaks. Jared is a franchise specialist and Apple is an administrator for an oil and gas company here in Dubai. But every week, they make sure that they release an episode of their podcast to share God's love and joy to everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to introduce to you Jared and Apple.
Hi! Annyeonghaseyo!
Thank you for having us here.
Good afternoon, good morning, or good evening sa Pilipinas.
Thank you for
How are you both?
Mabuti naman po, better than good.
I'm great.
Wow! Joke ka.
That's nice to hear.
Good.
Medyo, sure naman ako. Kasama naman kita and great.
Yes.
Babawiin natin mamaya sa dito.
That's nice. Okay, by the way, I love your podcast. I listen to your podcast. And for me, no, napaka-refreshing. At saka maganda yung batuhan ng mga jokes nyo. Napaka-relatable.
Actually, ang susi doon kasi hindi siya joke. Totoo siya.
Well,
life.
you know what they say, jokes are half meant. Kaya kung may mga pasingit na joke doon, minsan nagpapatama lang talaga ako.
Dinadaan na lang namin sa public setting.
Joke style. Okay, so curious ako, who came up with the podcast? Why did you start it? And bakit Langa Speaks?
So to be historically correct, let me point out the history of it.
May history
History
talaga.
talaga to. And pagdating sa mga history, dapat babae yung mag-confirm.
So,
Kasi iba version namin.
so how it started was that Jared is a very encouraging spouse. And we used to drive mga 1 hour from work going home to pick up our son from my parents' place. So we would always have conversations. Ganun. So sabi niya, sayang naman yung pinag-uusapan natin. Kasi usually naman, we love learning about things when we're away from each other. Tapos we would come back and talk about it. So sabi niya, sayang naman, dapat ni-record natin just for future, ganyan. And it became a diary, more of a way for us to connect. Then it evolved during the pandemic kasi he wanted to transform those conversations into a way for us to check up on it later. Then became the podcast. So it used to happen sa drives namin. Nag-record kami sa car. And then the pandemic happened, the lockdown happened. So it became a home-based activity that became our weekly date where we came,
Yun yung naging shared activity namin, which is very important, lalo sa mga lalaki, na to have someone and do something with that someone na talaga namang ma-enjoy niyo both. So, yun yung naging podcast sa amin. And initially, I was pushing her to do it, pero yun pala, ako yung may gustong i-do.
Sila kasi he was, sabi ko kasi sa kanya, hindi ko kaya mag-isa yung mga solo podcast na ganun. Kasi I used to blog before I used to write. And then, sabi ko, kailangan ko na kausap, hindi ko kaya na ako na mag-isa. Oo, nag-encourage. Actually, he adds a lot of the material. Kaya ino-honor ko talaga siya. A lot of the material we have is because of his research, it's because of his initiative.
Wow.
Kaya, ganon. Kaya
Siya lang yung lumalabas na alam talaga niya.
hindi, makinig na talaga ako. Singit to mga asik alam ko, pero hindi talaga.
And then why is it Langga Speaks? How did you come up with the title?
Si Jerry kasi galing siyang Laguna. Ako, kahit laking Dubai ako, I'm Ilongga. So, Langga kasi diba comes from the word Palangga, which means beloved. And then yung kasi tawagan namin.
Yung endearment namin.
Oo, endearment namin. Kaya wala kami naisip. Sabi, sige, let's just make it personal.
Parang
So,
the beloved speaks. So it translated to God na God speaks to our life. And kaya yung ending namin sa bawat podcast namin, we say na, what is the Langga telling you right now? So then we will reflect on what we recorded and this is what the Langga says to you. So naging gano'n na, hindi lang kami langga sa isa't isa, pero the way our relationship works is kailangan merong bigger langga, di ba? Which is God.
Yes. Wow. That sounds fun, interesting, and very creative then, ha? For a couple to really find time. Kasi parang date night na rin. Or,
Lalo na kung may mga bata na,
no?
tulog na lang ang pinaka-wish namin.
And we're so privileged na sinishare nyo ito, putting it out there so that other people will be able to hear your stories. And alam ko you're using this, you're doing this line, I don't know if it's, how do you call that? You're saying it like, these are stories of faith, family, and everything in between.
Yes.
Parang ganun yung sinasabi nyo dun sa
Yes.
tagline.
Parang namin, tagline namin. How do we do? This is the Langga Speaks podcast where we talk about family
faith.
and everything in between.
So it's a way for us to be able to remember that no matter what happens, the love of Jesus is always going to be there. Kaya thankful din kami sa lahat ng mga nakikinig. And if you're watching right now and you're listening right now and you've followed our content for a while, we're so grateful for sharing it with us.
I see. Alright. So mga beloved, take notes and stay tuned kasi we will be answering the questions and we'll be having discussions about dating and relationships and how to set boundaries. And our guest tonight will surely give us the light on those rose-tinted stories and glasses kung ano nga ba yung boundaries when the lines are already crossed. So, let's get started. Ready na ba tayo sa first question?
Let's go.
Alright, so let's get started. Our first question is about kissing.
Mama chuchu.
Alam ko marami sa ating mga viewers ang makakarinig dito. So the first question is kissing allowed? In the chick allowed? Or is it too
Hindi
far?
ko tanong na yan, parang hindi ko ma-imagine ano may kissing.
May sinasabi ka ba?
Okay, I think Apple can give this we can just share our story on how we approach kissing in our dating life, no?
Mhm.
So when I met Apple, ako yung si Apple NBSB, no boyfriend since birth. So
Same time.
so
Nakikiano.
so yun yung parang namin. So sabi ko sa kanya, oh wow, so nung liligawan ko, wala pa naging boyfriend ever since. So sabi ko, sabi tinanong ko rin kung, di ba? Kasi pwede naman no boyfriend pero merong sideline. so malinis po ang record, wala. So ako naman, sa isipan ko, I belong to a community na during that time, yung founder ng community namin, tapos yung mga kuyas in the community as well, the other leaders, they're in this trend na no kissing till the wedding day. Sabi ko, kaya natin yan, di ba? Parang gwapo-gwapo pakinggan. So sabi ko, kaya nung niligawan ko siya, sabi ko, kung sasagutin mo man ako, hindi kita halian until na makasal tayo. Little did I know. Itong founder namin, ilang buwan lang nag-antay. Tapos ako 2 taon.
Oh, wow!
Scam ako. Scam ako mga puso. Napakahirap. It's very hard. But we did that decision knowing my weaknesses. I've been open to the podcast about this. I was a porn addict. You know, I was on that road. Magpipreach ako, tapos at the same time, I just viewed porn. May double life, kumbaga. And sabi ko, you know, I knowing myself, tapos nalaman ko rin na love language niya is physical touch. Kahit sa chick magsimula, baka mauwi sa iba. So, kumbaga, it was a radical move. I'm not suggesting it na sa mga lalaki na nanonood ngayon. Napakahirap. Ang gwapo pakinggan, ang ganda-ganda pakinggan. Pero ang hirap! As in, di ba? So, it was my way of honoring Apple also for waiting that long. 25 years for waiting.
Huh?
that long.
We got married at 27, so 27 years.
25 years kasi nung na-meet kita.
So
And then 2 years plus
So,
2 years later.
So, kaya, ito naman tayo sa mga date, di ba? Hindi ba yung kwento-kwento? so I think it's a matter of knowing yourself. It's not a cardinal rule na walang halikan or whatnot. It's just knowing yourself. Do you think that this will lead you to a holier life than where you are now? I mean, if you have good self-control, by all means, right? Pero sa amin kasi knowing myself and my history as well with my other relationships, I know I couldn't handle it. I know that it would lead into something that I would regret. So yun na lang din, naging open din ako kay Apple. I'm doing this not because for show lang, but because I wanted to protect you as I pursue you towards marriage.
I think also one major thing would be on top of self-awareness is yung to know kung bakit kayo naghahalikan. I don't think na it's too hard kasi okay, sa cheek pwede, sa lips hindi pwede, sa ulo pwede, pero yung
Yes.
specific
Daming loopholes.
Oh, yeah, no.
goals, diba? I think mostly is the goal of why you are kissing. If your goal is just to be able to express yung chaste love on yung na mahal kita, then it's one thing. Pero, I'm not saying yes or no ha, but it's one thing to consider. But if your goal is to incite lust, to incite that desire because you want to take it a step further, then you have to consider kung dapat mo kailangan gawin yung action na yun. So I think more than just setting the boundaries of whether kissing on the cheek is yes or no, it's more of ano ba yung intention mo sa partner mo and how will this lead you closer to the desire of getting married.
Right, I agree with that. The intention and self-awareness. As you say.
Exactly. Dun papasok yung cardinal version of prudence kasi prudence as it is defined in our Catholic faith is the man knows where he is going. Ito mga gagawin ko would lead to a greater good. Diba? So, we're not branding kissing as something, naghalikan kayo, bad na yun. Diba? Kasi yun nga yung ayaw ng mga tao ngayon. Parang sobrang legalistic ng
A lot
Catholic
of
faith
people are saying, 2022 na.
Oo,
pwede
diba?
na,
Yes,
why
diba?
not?
Pandemic na, di pa rin na tayo nakaka-kiss. Diba? So, it's a matter of knowing that will this lead you closer to God? Will you lead your sister closer to God or brother in that case? So, hindi siya wrong or right. It's not a question of wrong or right. It's a matter of knowing your heart. Will my action lead this person towards heaven?
Agree. Super agree with that one. Okay, moving forward, let's go to the second question. This one, medyo tricky ito.
Yes, ang mahirap yung mga
It's not, it's getting harder.
naalala ko tuloy mga driving test ko eh.
Mahirap yan. Sa Dubai, Diyos ko Lord. That's a difficult one. Okay, anyway, our next question is about, is it okay to befriend someone you like who's already in a relationship? Bad. My boyfriend or girlfriend na siya and you're still trying to make friends with that person.
Pero may
This is
gusto ka sa
bad.
kanya.
May gusto ka sa kanya, yes.
One of the things that we've learned is that there are certain emotions na hindi mo makontrol kasi. I mean, there are yung attraction. Hindi mo naman sasabi na, okay, I will get attracted to you today, pero tomorrow hindi. Hindi mo makontrol yun eh. Because it's, a lot of it is hormones, it's emotions, it's feelings, ganon. So when it comes to being friends, rather, with someone who's already in a committed relationship, as a way na ma-satisfy din yung mga desire mo kasi may gusto ka sa ibang tao. So, any way that you would be able to say na, sige, lalabas kami, pero friends lang naman kami, kaya okay lang kahit may girlfriend siya or kahit may boyfriend siya. It's always a matter of, yun nga, going back to the intention, to the awareness. Kasi it's hard to say na, ay, may girlfriend siya, I can't talk to him anymore. Mahirap din ganun. What if you've been friends for the longest time?
Yes.
Pareho
That's
kayo sa
another
service.
Pareho kayo nagsiserve, baka partners kayo. Ay, kasi may boyfriend siya, hindi ko na siya pwedeng kausapin, kahit sa service, I can't serve with her kasi in committed. Ang hirap naman ng ganun because you're placing unrealistic limitations on yourself
Yes.
where it's not supposed to be placed.
I think St. John Paul II gave a very good guidelines sa love and responsibility. And when it comes to our emotions per se, hindi naman masama yan eh. It's just about how do we respond? How does our will, yung will na binigay sa atin, Lord, how do we respond to the emotion? Are we gonna be victims of it? Are we gonna be slaves of it?
The action we take.
Oo, the action we take na,
Uh-huh.
sige na, papakiramdaman ko lang to, okay na friends kami kasi nasasatisfy ako emotionally. Yung kumbaga may tinatawag din kasi emotional chastity, di ba? So, fine, hindi mo siya i-pursue because you like her, because alam mo may meron siyang boyfriend or vice versa, hindi pwede rin mangyari sa babae, di ba? Sige, friends na kami, at least kasama pa rin siya. When you do that mode, in a way, you are basking already without the other party knowing. Kumbaga, yung emotionally involved ka na eh. Hindi ka na-chased emotionally because rather than pursuing the friendship that God ought to have for you guys, is that meron ng iba. Parang in a way, umaasa ka lang with the hope na mag-ninja mo ba ako dito? Pagka napunta sa ibang mission, di ba may ganyan sa Bible, di ba? Nung sinend sa war yung asawa and then yung kay David, right? The same with David. So, let us be careful with that as well. Siguro kung hindi ka pa sure na naapektuhan yung the way you deal with this person kasi nga involved ka emotionally, then find ways na to temporarily distance yourself kasi mahirap din na you will go to this mode of near occasion of sin. Parang gano'n na rin kasi yun na
you're testing the boundaries,
yes,
testing the limits.
And you also have to be fair sa sarili mo.
Yes.
Diba? Mahirap din na you get emotionally fulfilled by another person na hindi naman pwedeng maging kayo.
Wow. Parang hugot na hugot.
Nakabalik ako sa high school pero ibig sabihin, ang gusto ng Panginoon sa'yo is to fully be in love with Him at ang pagmamahal mo sa Kanya, yun ay sapat na, di ba? And if you trust that God brings about a greater good, kahit na masakit yung sitwasyon na yun, it will lead you to the right person or maybe a different mission.
And it's another thought then because, for example, na yung attraction mo sa isang tao, you are not able to fulfill that. He's not able to reciprocate kasi nga he's in a committed relationship. The more you attach yourself into that situation, you also lose the opportunity na yung dapat para sa'yo ay hindi makalapit because you're throwing your heart at someone who's not able to reciprocate.
One way lang yung tinitingnan mo, yung kabila wala.
You're putting blinders unnecessarily on yourself so you cannot see the other opportunities God is giving you.
Baka nandiyan na sa harap.
Baka nandiyan na sa harap.
Sa mga nanonood ngayon, di ba? Sabihin nila, grabe naman itong session na to. Nasaan ang hustisya? Di ba? Speaking of justice na yan.
Of justice.
Aha.
What does the Catholic Church say about justice?
Ano ba yan? Di ba?
Kasi,
Oo, di ba sa justice, alam mo yan?
Because justice, that's for the CCC or
as per the Catholic,
the Catholic Church,
of it.
it's a moderation kasi. So it's knowing yung difference between selfishness and selflessness. Of
Exactly,
knowing,
di ba?
of knowing what you're doing is whether for the good of the other or good for yourself na.
Alam mo din, di ba? Selfish desire lang ba to? Or naging selfless mo?
Am I giving justice to this emotion right now?
Yes!
Giving justice to
Parang gano'n.
myself.
Or giving
My
justice.
self-evaluation.
True.
Aha. Okay. Galing mo na.
Talaga, I agree.
Praise God.
Praise God nga. Oo. Alright, so moving forward from befriending, punta naman tayo sa dating. Okay, so this one is saying I love you during the dating stage. Too early din ba in that situation?
Dating stage pa lang to.
Oh, is it
Ano
appropriate?
ba, nililigawan ba lang to?
Nililigawan pa lang to.
Dilawin natin.
We actually have an experience in our relationship. Kasi Jeric had courted for 7 months before na he finally officially asked.
Sa isipan ko 9 months pero 7 months.
Pina-discount, okay?
May discount. So when we were dating, he made a slip of the tongue. Na,
I was teasing.
he was teasing. So you were intentional in saying
I was
it. You were
intentionally
testing,
teasing you na siguro naman ano gusto rin nasa
patapos na to.
Patapos na daw.
Patapos na to. Hirap ko.
Grabe, ilang buwan na, let's say 7th month na yun. So sabi ko lang, parang tinis ko lang siya, sinabihan ko siya na palangga ka pa.
Oo.
Nasasakyan kami.
Pinamitan mo ng ilong words
Oo.
na
Ito pa
parang
malupit.
sweet.
Ito pa malupit doon. Ginawa ko yun. Naghahanap kami ng party sa St. Mary's. Sabi ko, siguro
Ng
magagalit ka
church.
sa tapat kami ng simbahan.
Oo.
Nagalit ako.
Mahiya naman siya sa Diyos.
The moves.
Sa totoo lang, nagalit ako. Because I was really mad because I knew how his feelings were to me. Kasi syempre, nandito siya nang ganun katagal. But I did not, because I felt a certain pressure na because he said it to me, that I had to reciprocate.
Respond, oo.
So I felt, na parang na-betray naman ako that you would try and yung parang push the boundaries unnecessarily. But this is just me, ha? So personally, I think unless we were in a committed relationship already, I did not think it was appropriate for him to say those words to me. Then finally, nung naging kami, he actually asked me on the birthday of Mama Mary, so September 8, in front of
Sa
my
mga
family.
nanonood dito, alam niyo na, kailangan laging mga feast days.
May mga meaningful dates.
Unang-una kung nililigawan nyo, devout Catholic, or let's say per se Catholic, ang hirap mag-busted kapag
Feast day.
feast day.
Oo, feast day pa ng mana, di ba? Ganon. So, birthday ni Mama Mary, in front of my family, he asked me to be his girlfriend. And I said yes. Then a couple of days later, we went on our first date as an official couple, boyfriend-girlfriend couple. So we were driving, tapos sabi ko, okay, 2 days na, wala pa siyang sinasabi. In anticipation, full anticipation na magsasabi siya. Finally, at the end of the date, sinabi niya, Langga, I love you. But don't worry, hindi ko siya
Gagamitin kasi
gagasgas.
ayoko magasgas yung
Ayoko
word na I love you.
Doon naman ako. Oo.
Doon kumawi.
Oo.
Parang gano'n naman yung mindset ko kasi sa family namin, yung I love you.
Okay.
Eh, hindi ko alam sa kanya. Hindi
Tayo
ba?
lang ha, tapos you're not gonna say it to me pa. I waited how many years for you, and you will not say, nag-away din kami. Kasi, kasi for him naman, for me naman, then I said, the limitations have moved now. This I love you should be an expression, an affirmation of your love to me. And it's like, I don't get tired of hearing my parents tell me that they love me. Why would it differ from you? I want to hear it as often and as strong and as loud and as proud. I want to be reaffirmed of your love.
So sinabi mo to sa kanya?
I told him.
Kaya after nung napakanta talaga ako ng buhay, so sabi ko, I love you. It's all that you.
So yun, it's all about placing it at the right time. Placing your actions at the right time.
Yes. I think kasi when you say that word without knowing what it represents, pwedeng ma-misuse, pwedeng na-clickbait lang yung babae or yung lalaki. Oh, I love it, ito na yun. Diba? So, minsan, mag-iiba yung intention behind it. The guy uses it para makuha ni babae. But naman sa girl naman, ang dating naman doon, ay, lifelong commitment na to. So, medyo disparity of expectations, no? So, for us, I would suggest na unless you are already in a committed state in your relationship, then I would reserve that word.
So hindi mo na, habang nag-courtship pa rin niya.
Sa courtship, hindi mo na kasi ang dami
Why?
pa pwede
Because in courtship, it doesn't necessarily mean na maging kayo. Because even courtship can end na hindi naging kayo. Just because one enters into a courtship situation, it doesn't necessarily mean na you will end up in marriage, right? And I think that's one of the other virtues that the Catholic Church teaches, which is temperance. It's the mastery. So just because you feel like saying it doesn't mean you have to say it. It's being able to master your own emotions because you know that it's for the will and the good of the other.
It's honoring the sister or the brother before. I mean, we can learn a lot, not only with the Catechism, the Catholic Church, mga nanonood ng K-drama dyan. Napansin niyo ba? Ilang episode niya? 16 episode.
Yes, agree.
True.
Sa ano pa lang, sa 16th episode, sa 14th, sa 15th episode, sa 16th episode pa lang magsasabi na, sarangin.
I noticed that. Kasi K-drama addict ako.
Oh, di ba?
Very, the I like you yung laging sinasabi mo na.
It's reserved na siya sa huli.
And to be honest, just like when our first kiss, it gave extra energy, yung kilig sa relationship namin because we were waiting for something. It allowed us to wait for something beautiful together.
It becomes more special.
Exactly. So just like as we wait throughout the 14 episodes before they're able to say I love you at naging sila at the first kiss. Kakanta ka ba? Kakanta ka ba tayo? Kakanta ka ng Christmas tree. But it's all about knowing the right time because also God diba, has the right time, the perfect timing for everything. So our goal is even in the relationship, we're aligned to His time, aligned to His will, and that's when you would experience the beauty of what God has to offer.
I agree. It is important that we should know the weight of that word love.
Yes.
Kasi di ba lagi, for us, Catholic, who's in the community, we always equate love with God.
Right.
So it's really a heavy word.
Yeah, in the culture that we have today, medyo na-water down na siya, di ba? Puro ano na, love you, babe. Di ba? Kasi naging ano na siya,
Tinatapon na lang.
siya. Exactly.
Tinatapon
Or sa
na
text
lang.
din. I think that's another difference that I may share is, yun yung nangyari sa amin ni Apple na never kong tinext sa kanya yung I love you.
Never gonna text. So verbal talaga
Kailangan
yung
verbal.
It's either verbal or if ever na he has to write it, it's because he's writing it in a letter.
Yeah.
Hindi siya
Ah.
nagiging like quick messaging. Never until now, until we've been together for the past 8 years.
Either
He's
tawag
never done that. And if he has to say I love you to me kahit magkahiwalay kami, he has to call me and tell me that I love you.
Oh, that's very sweet.
Kung wala man I love you, dapat may kasama akong shipment. Mas maintindihan na namin yan.
Okay.
May parating na naman. May
Tracking ID. Tracking ID. Mall talaga ako. Tracking ID.
Kasama pala sa expression ng add to cart and shipping na
Yung
lang.
mga buying of gifts.
Add to heart yun.
Add to cart.
Galing mo!
Ano kasi yun?
Let's proceed. Baka kung saan ka pupunta.
Okay. Let's move forward to a more pressing issue. Ito, medyo...
Alam ko matindi na
Lagi
yun.
pressing, no? Tumataas na level up.
Parang drama. Level up yung tension.
Oh, ito we would probably hear some of our friends, especially dito sa Dubai, or even our OFW brothers and sisters, kahit sa Pilipinas din siguro. The line or the sentence that they usually use is that, we are not having sex, but can we sleep together in one bed occasionally? Anong take nyo dito?
Naga.
Ako, I would speak on my Unang-una sa lahat, sino bang niloloko nyo? I mean, seriously, it's time and time again, even in the history of our church, when we try to play with the near occasions of sin. And we all know, di ba, the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. Di ba? It's already there. Alam natin yan, human weakness natin yan. And nung nasa relasyon kami yan, niligaw ko sa Apple, I will always remind myself, I do not want to be in a position where I have to justify or explain myself. That's why we never went to any vacation back then. Na kami dalawa lang. Kasi kahit na, let's say, maghiwalay kami ng hotel room, let's say, if ever we did that back then, kailangan ko pa bang ipaliwanag sa lahat, di ba? Right?
Yes.
I mean, for me, for my peace of mind, I don't want to be in the position na kailangan ko ipaliwanag. No, minsan lang occasionally na kami tulog. Tsaka, hindi naman kami we're never having sex. Exactly. Like, why do you need to be in a position where you have to justify yourself? And why do you need to play with the devil in that
You
way?
will never win.
You will never win. So, kunyari may mangyari man sa inyo, ano yung next na justification mo? Hindi ko alam eh. Akala ko na nanaginip lang ako.
Wow.
Diba? Diba? Nananaginip ako. Annunciation. Ganun pa. The Holy Spirit yan, hindi ako yan. Hindi ko pa nanagutan yan si Holy Spirit. Kasi wala naman nangyari sa akin. So, you don't want to be in that position always to justify it. And so, I rarely agree. I don't even agree na, ang hirap paniwalaan, di ba? If someone tells you like that. I don't know I'm speaking on behalf of the men. Kasi kami mga lalaki. Konting lang yan. Konting dampi lang.
What's the
Na-touch lang.
Ah.
Sorry mga kasi di sila lumaki. So, medyo kailangan may translation.
Translate
So,
daw.
kunyari, dampian
Ay,
ako.
subtitle na lang po ha.
Kung nadampian ako, parang makapareact na dito.
Mo?
Sa mga babae.
No, I think for me, one of the things because I grew up in the community as well, one of the things that we learned is that, there are very special places like, the altar in the church, right? So, in the church, we have the altar where
Yes. I remember
where we
this.
celebrate the Eucharist, right? And when we come home, the altar is where we place the reminders of Jesus. This is where we pray, we light candles, and remind us of the holiness of that space. The table is also an altar because that's where you break bread with the family. It's where you
Yes.
experience the beauty of family, of love. But the bed is also an altar, especially when you're married. It's an altar.
Yes, it is an
So
altar.
for you to tempt and play around in a place that's supposed to be sacred, it's supposed to be holy. Why would you test the waters if you're so excited to just sleep together, just be able to experience the physical heat
Side by
from
side
the
lang.
person side by side? Magpapakasal na kayo para hindi nyo kailangan i-justify yung mga actions. Diba? Why would you want to have to spend that extra energy of explaining yourself to people who would judge you? Instead, use that energy of experiencing the beauty of love in the relationship.
And a quick litmus test when it comes to this question is, it doesn't bring peace at all. And we
Oh,
believe
yes.
that in the will of God is nandun din yung kapayapaan niya. the devil will give you happiness. He can give you that, but he can never give you peace.
Dire-diretso ng guilt and all
Yes.
this.
Exactly. The devil, ito nga yung nakakalimutan natin is that the devil can't give you happiness. The devil cannot give you peace. So, na-experience yun, magkatabi kayo matulog, ay, ganito kaya siguro pag inasal na tayo. Pero after those, this sounds so scary. Pero after that experience, how do you feel? You feel
Yes.
peaceful or
That's very nice. So, I think we at MFC Singles, we know that we should not be putting ourselves in a situation
Yes.
na natitempt talaga tayo. As much as possible, let us draw that line. Wag na.
Itabi mo yung biyanan mo, maging biyanan mo sa gitna.
Oo.
Depende pa rin naman kayo tabi-tabi. Why not? Subukan lang natin.
I'll wait. I'll wait to move somewhere.
Okay na yung coordinator nyo or household help nyo.
Also then,
Sabi mo, okay lang naman. Isang kama pa rin kayo, tabi-tabi pa rin kayo, pero nandun.
group pa na yun.
Group activity. Suggestion lang naman.
oh, it's a scary suggestion. Awkward. Gosh. Ay, nako.
Nako, okay. So,
okay.
since you have been mentioning about virtues, let's be direct na. Kasi I think you picked some of those
Yes.
virtues na. But I've learned that there are specific virtues when it comes to a man and woman relationship. So, ano nga ba itong mga virtues na to?
Kanina, yung na-mention natin yun, yung prudence, tapos yung
Temperance.
temperance,
And
tapos justice. These are cardinal virtues. And you also have courage, di ba? Yan yung mga kailangan natin to go against the tide. I mean, they will always say go with the flow. Pero kung tutuusin, in nature, the only thing that goes with the flow is yung mga patay na isda na, di ba? Kasi aanurin na sila. So, in order for us to thrive in life, we need these cardinal virtues for us to thrive, to go towards God. Yung prudence nga is knowing, no, am I doing this for the greater good? Tapos yung temperance din, yun yung parang moderation mo na if I indulge myself in this, will I lose my identity in Christ? Kasi di ba ngayon, ang init-init ng usapan din sa politika, sa mga issues ng sa social issues, and now we're talking about relationships. So we also have to need to have that virtue of temperance. And justice, yung paghiwalay ng selflessness and selfishness that you mentioned.
I'm sorry, I thought you were going to proceed. It's okay. Go.
Continue.
I think you can define courage.
No, I think courage is also being able to, it's the action that we take. So you have your prudence. It's all about taking all of those virtues and being able to decide. Kaya yung, kailangan talaga maging courageous sa relationship eh. Mahirap talaga yung enter ka sa isang relationship and then you will become passive. So this is where the virtue of courage comes into play.
Kailangan mo ng action when it comes to courage. Meron yung translation of action towards something. Like yung na-mention mo sa last question, kailangan you have to act on it. It cannot remain just as an intention. Diba? Ang dami nang nagsasuffer sa mundo pero may intention ka lang to help. But never the courage to do so. So we need these virtues for us to move forward na maging kamay at pakatalaga ng Kristo.
Sabi nga ni Mother Teresa, love without action is dead. So,
Yes,
kailangan
exactly.
natin ng action.
Exactly.
So, question, do I have to get all these virtues? Do I have to practice all of these virtues? Or pwede ba akong pumili lang sa mga virtues na comfortable lang?
But why would you want to do that? It's a beautiful gift. It comes all together. You cannot have one without the other. In fact, prudence nga, diba, is known as the mother of all virtues. And when you have this, am I correct? Correct me if I'm wrong. And when you have that virtue of prudence, everything will follow: justice, temperance, and courage, because you already know kung ano yung gusto ng Diyos para sa'yo, and you'll be able to move forward in life. It's not a matter of grocery picking. I
Or
feel ko
practicing
to,
even.
gawin ngayon kasi bet ko. But then bukas, parang iba yung feeling ko, wag ko na lang siyang gawin. It's not in line with what Jesus wants. Jesus was always consistent in everything he does, which is why we became Christians. And in the same way, if you believe that you're Christian children of God, lahat yan kasama yun is one package.
And we ask for it also. Like the gifts of the Holy Spirit, these virtues, it all comes from the grace of God. We have to desire it as well.
Isama natin sa mga prayers.
Isama natin sa mga prayers.
Yes.
Lord, tulungan mo akong mas magkaroon ng tapang, ay paglaban ng tapang.
Justice.
Turuan mo ako, Lord, na magkaroon ng temperance pagdating sa tempura. So, alam ko po, hindi po pwede sa akin yan. Pero Lord, bigyan mo ng temperance. So, what I mean is, to include this, na hindi rin i-pressure yung sarili mo to the point na nagiging scrupulous ka na. Yung scrupulous, yung kala mo bawat kilos mo, magagalit si Lord. Diba? But to also give yourself a chance to slowly incorporate this in your life. And the Lord has been patient with us, so we have to be patient with ourselves as well.
Yes, agree. Oh, those are beautiful gifts, no? Hindi man siya gifts of the Holy Spirit, but these are gifts as well.
That we have to ask.
Yes, cardinal virtues.
Yes.
Right, no? All right. So, brothers and sisters, we are just taking a break. Stay tuned. And we are back. The video that you have seen, brothers and sisters, is one of our pillars in LCSC. It's the Live Pure movement. It is a Catholic pro-life movement for the youth wherein we encourage them to defend life, the culture of life, through chasing purity and chastity. So, for you to follow their pages, it's in the screen. Going back to our topic on dating, courtship, and relationship, we are going to our next question. And ito, very relatable din ito. Lahat naman yata about love is relatable, no? So this question is, how late can I text the other person? Gamitin natin yung mas modern, kasi text parang late 90s ba yun? DM, Yahoo Messenger. Or DM na, di ba? DM, Viber, sa Pilipinas, Viber probably. Dito, WhatsApp. How late can I continue? Oh, may Telegram pa, yes.
Alright.
How late can I text the other person?
I think I would let Jarek answer this because when you were dating, we had a conversation about it, and he was the one who made the decision. Sige lang.
I thought you're going to be the one to
Hindi.
cement this on record.
Gano'n naka-record tayo.
Okay. Sa amin nun, I determined na kailangan may limit kami sa pag-text.
Oh,
Sa pagka-WhatsApp.
may ano talaga.
May set time. When we were still friends, I noticed na we're going really late on our messaging one another. And usually kasi, ikot-ikot ka pa yan sa ano, di ba?
Nagagano pa ba yung...
Magal pa pala. Yeah. Habang nagtatype kasi nalalaman ko pa nagtatype na. But anyway, I decided nung we were already courting, we were already in courtship, na you know what, it needs to be limited to around 10 p.m. 11 p.m.
I-set natin yung sinasabi mong late up to 12, 1, ganyan, a.m.
Minsan, malampas. Pag late kasi mga 2 a.m. na yan. 1 a.m., 1 a.m., 2 a.m.
Okay.
Talagang, maganda kasi talaga yung pinupuyat mo yung babae. Kasi pag pinupuyat mo yung babae, nababawasan yung mga brain cells. Pag nababawasan yung brain cells, humuhugot yung mga yan.
Mga intro moves yun.
Oo, naghahari na yung puso mo eh. Nila-love bomb mo na yun. Tinatawag na love bombing, affirmation, lahat, late at night. Hilong-hilo na yung babae, pero talagang ano na yan.
Continue pa din.
Pumutok na. Kasi yun yung ginagawa ko before sa Pilipinas, anti-text. Kasi wala ko. Diba sa atin, anti-text. But anyway, for Apple, I set that time na we have to be until 10 p.m. na. Kasi nothing really happens on late night text. Nothing good really happens. Usually, it's either you become very emotionally attached to the person already, you project a version of that person already, because yung text kasi, especially late at night, based on emotions na yun, on your emotion and not sa kausap mo. Di ba yung reply niya, nakalagay lang doon, good night, pero ang basa mo, good night. Di ba? Nilalagyan mo na ng emotion. So, yun yung gusto ko maiwasan na baka magsabi ako na, gising ka ng maaga bukas, tulog ka na. Pero ang basa nila, gising ka ng maaga, tulog ka ng maaga, baby ko. Wala pa namang gano'n, pero nilalagyan mo na sa isip mo. So, I wanted to avoid that because I don't want her to fall in love sa taong version sa isipan lang yan. I want her to know me. Kung merong conversations na talaga kailangan pag-usapan namin in person kasi doon mo mas makikita.
And the next day na lang siguro, no?
Next day na lang.
Ay, maaga gumising, mag-start na, good morning, ganyan. Kasi gising ka na eh. And I think that is one thing na I really honor about Jerry kasi I never felt the pressure to have to set the boundaries. Kasi di ba yun yung struggle ng mga babae nowadays, in the relationship nowadays, na we have to be the one to, wait, hindi na nga, hold up hindi pa ako ready. And that was one thing I really appreciate kasi he took that burden off me. He took the the responsibility of setting the boundaries because he wanted to show na mahal niya ako. Kaya super napit. Kaya siguro na-fall ako kasi nakita ko na hindi lang siya consistent, but he was also taking my good in his, yung kinukonsider niya yung good for me.
Taking the lead as well to really talk about it. Kasi minsan dire-diretso lang eh. Walang, wait, hanggang dito lang tayo. Parang there's really a discussion between the two of you. I think that's important.
Yeah. And
Brothers, gawin nyo yan.
Totoo yan, mga brothers, huwag nyo gawin yung love bomb. Dali kasi. Tsaka yung call natin, it's a hard call, especially as Christians. Yung pinag-usapan natin kanina, the virtues, di ba? In the Catechism of the Catholic Church, 1803, sinabi doon, yung virtue, it doesn't form overnight, it's habit that forms. Di ba? Yung habit, virtue leads us to do good, it's the disposition to do good. But it's a habit. You have to build it one day at a time. So,
yes.
as simple as late night text, kapag dininay mo yung sarili mo with that, with the pleasure that you derive from it, as much as it is pleasurable, it also builds your temperance, di ba, sa sarili mo, na magagamit mo later on in your relationship, na hindi lahat instant gratification. Kasi pagka late night text talaga, it's more of the dopamine na lang, na, oh, grabe yung reply sa akin itong babae. Willing siya magpuyat.
Willing siya magpuyat. That means she really has something for me.
Love niya talaga ako. Gusto talaga ako nito.
Tulog ka muna. Hindi ko muna. Tulog ka muna. Yun lang yung mga text nyo. Hanggang alas 2. Ikaw muna. O ba't gising ka pa? Hindi, tulog ka muna. Sabi mo, ikaw muna. So, yun ang iniiwasan natin kasi you fall in love with a false version of the person. If you delve yourself, if you immerse yourself in that kind of action.
Okay, so going back to that question, mga 10 p.m. okay na.
Pwede. Depende naman sa inyo. Baka naman night shift kayo pareho. Para
Ay,
sa
hindi,
center,
mapwede
di ba?
din yan, no? Mapwede din yan, yes.
So I don't think, like I said, like
There's
going
no
back
naman.
to the previous question, it's not about legally putting a time for everybody to do. But it's always about the intention of why you are setting boundaries. So kunwari, sabi ni Jeric, may mga dito na in a relationship pero night shift sila. So what is best to always put God first in the center of the relationship? That's where your decisions will come from.
Okay. Okay. Alam niyo na, brothers and sisters.
Yahoo Messenger daw po.
Yung messenger friends.
Nalagay sa
Napakahalagaan ng
SMS,
edad
papahal.
eh. Okay, moving forward to the next question. I want to get, I think you're answering both naman, no? Pero I want to get the opinion of Jeric first in this question.
Okay.
Okay?
Ayaw dito, delete this first. Okay.
Okay, so the question is, should a woman entertain multiple suitors?
Yes, it's been a question. Hindi naman. At saka ako na-experience ko din yan. I believe naman okay yun.
Okay.
Multiple suitors. Hindi lang ako agree is multiple nililigawan.
Okay.
Diba? Kasi pwede yung lalaki,
Okay.
iba-iba yung nililigawan. Kumbaga numbers game mo. Pag binasa mo dito, pwede
Dito
ka
sa
mas
kabila,
dito.
Higher chance of probability.
Pero sa babae, we have that power. You have that I can say privilege to have multiple suitors.
Sisters,
Oo,
advantage.
diba? Baka naman. Diba? Sabi ng mga sisters nakikinig, pambihira naman, multiple
Baka
relationships.
naman.
Isa lang hinihingi ko kay Lord, Lord, baka naman, diba? So, but like right now, like what we did doon sa amin, I had, may mga kasabay ako.
Isa lang.
May isa akong official na kasabay, pero may mga maali.
Oh,
pwede rin kasi, diba? May mga,
Pwede pa rin ma-count, okay?
pwede pa rin ma-count yun. Na may ano pa rin. So, in a way, that also, for me, it was a given. Parang siguro traditionally in the Filipino culture, okay naman yung, di ba usually sa mga ano pa nga, sa mga comedy movies, yung makit ng ligaw sila,
Okay,
sila
sabay-sabay.
Dolphy, or sila, sabay-sabay sila. I think it's a culturally accepted thing na magkaroon ng multiple suitors. Kasi it also gives the lady the opportunity to challenge this man. Kung ano ba talaga bang willing kayong ligawan mo. But, you have to come to a point na yung babae din would call the shots na hindi lang paasahin yung mga multiple suitors na yun. Kung talagang mas nag-i-incline siya sa isa, dahil kumpleto ang SSS contributions, at updated naman sa kanyang pag-ibig MP2. So maaaring mag-incline siya doon, then it's on the prudence of the girl, on the discernment of the girl, to tell the other person na, bro, I think I'm leaning towards this guy more. I wanted to pursue the relationship and discern with him. So I don't want to waste your time. To have that courage as well.
Oh, I want to insert that actually. For the woman to have courage to tell. Also for the man na may courage din talaga siya to continue kahit na marami silang competition.
Kunyari, to continue or to concede. Kasi
To concede
minsan
din,
naman
yes.
naman ng lalaki
Oo.
na, di ba, dito rin papasok yung pagmamahal mo sa sarili mo.
No.
Huwag ka na martyr na tipong, di ba, ihahatid mo pa yung babae sa date sa kapalitan mo.
Grabe na.
Okay na yun. Level na yun. Hindi natin
Todo na, todo.
Sabihin ka kunyari, no? Hindi kasi tayo pwede mag-date kasi niyaya na ako ni brother number 2 eh. Sabihin ng brother number 1, hindi nakita kay brother number 2. Puso ko, Lord. Ba't sa babae?
How about you, Apple?
Yeah, I
Yes.
think na, okay, since Derek already shared yung experience din namin yun, it was really scary because you would feel na, oh, okay, fine. If I choose, does it mean that, oh, I'm too good for people that I can choose? But it's also yung self-worth natin bilang babae. Kasi that's the gift that God gave us, the gift of choice, the gift of free will. But it's also the understanding that you have to honor the dignity of the men who are approaching you, to treat them with respect. Na if you already know it deep in your heart, in your discernment, na for me, that I felt that the Lord was already leading me closer to Jerry, it was really, sa totoo lang, it was only the grace of God that gave me the courage to tell the other one na, I'm so sorry, but right now, Jerry is the one who is there that I would love to discern with. That's why I also honor that other guy. Kasi he was also brave enough and courageous enough to step back and say, okay, I will let myself move away from the situation because I honor you also as a woman in your discernment with Jerry. And the beautiful thing was that we ended up getting married. And the other person also has a beautiful relationship. Na I think na yun yung na-experience namin in all aspects of our life, especially din sa dating. If you honor God in your decision, then God will also honor you in the decisions that you make. Kaya
At saka we believe in a God who brings about a greater good. And kahit na ikaw yung nasa losing end, you have to have this faith na there is something better. It's not a rejection, it's God's redirection.
Redirection.
Yeah.
I love that. Yes. Agree.
Kaya yun din yung na-experience namin. But yun nga, it's all about also placing, because you respect, na for the men din. It's different kasi pag woman eh. Pero pag men, yung multiple na yung niligawan din. Ibang usapan na yun.
Exactly.
So for the sisters, wag na tayong paasa, sabihin na natin talaga.
Yeah, kung dumating ka na sa point na yun, di ba? After, kasi 12 naliligaw sa'yo, di ba?
Wow!
Parang hair.
Mamili ka ng Pedro. Sa
Pedro
12
talaga
na yun.
sa 12.
Kasi, di ba, the leader of the disciples.
Ano?
Hindi ka. Sabihin
Pinangalanan.
mo sa mga niligaw sa'yo, upon this rock, I will build my family. Pipili ka din, di ba?
I was so slow there. Sorry. But
You
yes.
read more scripture.
Oh,
Napagsabihan.
may call pa. May maximum call pa.
Alright, since we are talking about rejection, our next question is about
Oh
rejection.
my gosh.
So, the question is, should someone keep the communication after na nireject mo na yung taong yun?
You know, we actually had this conversation when we were, nung naging kami na because there was something that, so there was a situation that the conversation led to that. And I asked him, what would you have done if I said no when you asked me to become your girlfriend? What would you have done? Jerry actually took a very long time to answer. But then he came back saying, I would have been hurt. I would have stepped back. I would have mourned. Pero my decision was to court it talaga eh. He told me that he would come back to continue and to try again. And that's like, oh, okay, mahal na pala.
Hindi pa kasal, laban mo. Yun yung sa akin.
Basta wala pang karelasyon din.
Exactly. Wala pang karelasyon din. Kung nireject man niya ako, tapos wala pa rin naman siyang karelasyon.
Pwede ba?
Baka lang hindi pa siya ready at that time in her life. So, go pa rin.
So, you can still keep that friendship, relationship ng friends. Courtship pa rin siguro ng konti.
Kasi
Discernment na yun kung paano niya i-discard yun.
Depende rin sa sitwasyon nga. Diba? Sabi mo, paano kung may boyfriend na, huwag na, step back ka na. Pero kung ano pa rin, free pa rin siya, respect the time, diba, nireject ka niya, meron namang ano yan eh. Meron namang mourning period din eh. Huwag mo lang din kinabukasan, kung nireject ka ngayon, kinabukasan, dapat kukulitin mo ulit, di ba? Baka ipakulong ka na.
But disclaimer, not just because we said that doesn't mean that you have to continue all the time.
Yes.
Because during the courtship period, I already saw the good characteristics of Jerick's personality, of him as a person. And I knew that yes, there are husband-like siguro things that I saw in him. Pero sometimes kasi in certain situations, you would reject someone because you don't see those non-negotiables already.
Yes.
So
I
this
think
is-
sisters do. Brothers have that non-negotiable.
Meron naman din. Tsaka yung sa sisters, it plays a role kasi yung babaeng niligawan. So you have to also be responsible on the rejection. Kasi pwede sabihin mo, basta hindi tayo punta. Tapos walang rason.
How you deliver
diba?
it, how you explain it.
How you explain it, anong rason? So para alam din ng lalaki, to be fair with that guy, kung malalaman niya na kailangan niya naman mag-move on, meron bang non-negotiable talaga na, for example, difference in religion. Hindi talaga
pwede.
Hindi talaga pwedeng ayaw i-give up ni guy or ni girl. So, yung mga ganun, at least specific, especially sa aming mga lalaki, hindi kami kasing galing ng mga babae interconnected. So,
Yes.
kailangan namin
Very,
specific focus,
Ah.
specific yung rason nyo kung bakit nyo kami binasted. If you may, i-print nyo, ipa-stamp nyo, ipanotaryo nyo.
Red ribbon mo, ganyan. Ates mo.
Why red ribbon pa yung
But it's
rejection?
always about treating, even in rejection, it's always treating about the other person with dignity and respect. Kasi child of God siya eh.
Yes.
So whether or not na okay kayo, na baka mamaya after the rejection, hindi na kayo magiging friends, okay, that's
Okay.
that's okay. But how you treat that person at that particular point in time will determine just how you view that person. Kasi makikita mo eh. Kasi if you just dismiss the person, okay, hindi kita bet ngayon, kaya rejected ka, pas ka. That means from the very beginning, makikita ng lalaki, okay, so she really did not see me for who I am. And it's also a litmus test for the man, okay, maybe I should not have pursued, it's a good thing hindi natuloy, kasi hindi niya pala ako nakikita bilang ako. So it's also a way for the man to see, okay, whether this woman sees me as me or as how she wants me to be. And yeah.
Naku, ang ganda ng pinag-uusapan natin.
Yung mga rejection.
Oo. I mean, maraming makaka-relate pa rin nitong conversation na to. No? And since we are still talking about friendship, ito medyo controversial sentence. Kasi this is about how about going out as a friend, just the two of us, going to may background kanta. How about
Dramatic.
going to Baguio as a friend?
Wow, specific talaga ba?
Kasi very diba? Controversial
Alam mo,
sabi ko.
just to give
Diba?
context to Apple kasi
Okay.
hindi siya lumaki sa UAE. Kaya minsan, laging sample yung Baguio. At kasi biyahe. Maraming magaganap sa bus. Maraming magaganap sa road trip.
Kasi famous siya.
Hindi sa dahil sa famous, dahil medyo malayong biyahe.
Paano kung nasa tabi ka ng province ng Baguio?
Hindi, ibig sabihin kaya nga laging sample dito.
Mas popular ang Baguio.
Mas popular ang Baguio.
Doon na lang tayo doon sa explanation na
Kaya
yun.
lang, nakita nyo na. Naging komplikado na.
Taga Dubai po talaga. Okay, can we go out as friends? Just the two of us to Baguio as friends, 3 nights, 3 days, 2 nights.
Hanap ng
Sa
group
Bora,
Correct.
kayong dalawa lang.
Okay. So, Jerick and I believe that anytime two people go out, a boy and a girl, na kayong dalawa lang, kahit friendly man siya, it's already considered as a date. Kasi kayong dalawa solo kayo. If you go out on a coffee date, like a coffee shop, that's one thing. Just to get to know each other, that's one thing. But when you take a vacation and you go out of your usual routine to spend quality time with each other,
At walang ibang
at walang ibang involved, there's no reason but just to be together and your friends, or even if you're dating, then it is a completely different ballgame. I think that one should not put yourself in a situation like that where you would have to justify your
Okay,
actions.
mag-justify ka naman
Oh,
dyan.
yes.
Diba? Yung friends na talaga kami o bakit 3 days, 2 nights pa yung kinuha nyo?
Kasi may-
bakit
may
doon pa?
deal.
Bakit hindi mo kami isama?
Oo.
Diba? Eh, gano'n. Pati mga tropa nyo magtatanong.
Maraming bakit.
Pati mga nasa circles nyo. Yayaya lang ka namin doon sa may kanto para mag-soft drinks. Tapos Baguio. di mo kami mapagbigyan. Tapos doon, Baguio pa kayo, 3 days, 2 nights pa. Diba? So, there's a lot of questions that can go into that. And whether you say na it's my money, my choice, well then, why do you need to ask for validation if it's the right thing to do, diba? So in the first place. So for me, like what sabihin na natin old school, no? gagawin nyo ito, magtititigan, sabi nga kanina nag-usap kami.
That's the same
Diba?
question earlier.
Pag nandun kayo sa bus, or pag nandun na kayo sa hotel, let's say, gagawin nyo dun.
Ang dami kasing water activities sa Baguio. Ay, water.
Bora.
Bora.
Ikaw pala yung pinunta.
Iba pa rin ito.
So, yun ang kailangan natin i-discern again. Actually, hindi mo na kailangan i-discern. Minsan kasi, the choice between bad and good, napakadaling makita niyan. But the choice between good and good, dun ka dapat talaga mas mag-isip eh. Pero this particular question, black and white naman siya na eh, for me.
It talks about as a friend, ha? Is it necessary for you to label this as a friend thing?
Oo,
before going
ganun pa rin.
out?
Ganun pa rin. I mean, again, meron justification yun na. As a friend lang naman.
But why would you have to justify to everybody? Friends lang kami. It's just a friendly thing. Because the need to have to validate, the need to have to justify yourself already knows na you should already know I'm not at peace. That's why I have to justify myself. You're justifying yourself to the people around you and you're telling yourself then. So it should already be a red flag na that I'm not at peace. That's why I need to explain myself. Kaya I think that the answer is already there. Na don't do it na kasi you're already not at peace. Na ganun.
Okay, I agree with that one. Now, brothers and sisters, I think it's better that you put a label into it. Huwag tayong MU siguro.
Define the relationship.
Define the relationship.
Question sa lalaki.
Lagyan natin ng
Ka na.
label.
Siguro natatakot din umamin yung mga lalaki kasi sila yung magbabayad. Kung
Yes,
TTR na
that's another,
Kung friends na kasi, pwede 50-50.
So, hindi pa rin kami kahit na nililigawan niya, kahit girlfriend niya, hanggang di pa kayo kasal, don't go into that route kasi yun nga, you will carry unnecessary burdens of you know, natatakot ka, how long will this last, how long will our feeling last, magtatagal ba ito hanggang sa mag-propose siya, alam mo yun, so it will not do anyone good if we pursue this action.
I have nothing further to add.
Okay. Wow, brothers and sisters, time flies so fast. We want to keep going with this conversation. Ang daming pwede pang pag-usapan, but we have come to the end of our session. Nako, end na, no? Pero
May
before...
last question pa ba? And yeah?
Wala na, actually, last na. But I want to ask...
Hinalingan
Hindi
ko
naman siya
pa.
question.
Dapat pala hinalingan ko yung dapat pala binasa ko yung mga
Hindi naman siya last question, but I just want to ask additional advices to our brothers and sisters who are going through this kind of relationship issues and concerns on dating, courtship. Itong mga ito, what can you tell our audience?
When we got married, we were blessed to be able to go and study theology of the body at the Theology of the Body Institute. Actually, ginawa namin yung wedding namin. Nag-fundraising kami sa reception. Sabi namin, doon na po kayo magbigay ng TV, ng microwave. We would really like to study.
Tapos yung reception namin sa park lang.
Para higher yung chances.
5 dirhams na per
So when we were able to go there, one of the priest there, when he celebrated one of the masses, he said something beautiful na in his homily. Sabi niya, one of the greatest sins that we humans can commit is yung sin of self-reliance. When we think we can do all things without God, na kaya natin on our own strength, on our own abilities. So including the dating and relationship circle. When you think that you can test the boundaries by yourself, when you think that you can push your limits, kasi hindi kaya ko, how far is too far, I can control myself with him, I can control myself with her. Yun na yung seeds of pride, and pride is the greatest sin that the devil committed, kaya nawala na siya sa langit, right? So that is one thing that Jared and I kept reminding ourselves while we were dating. Let's not push the boundaries, let's not push the limits, kasi we're placing ourself at on the hands of temptation, of faith, and that's not really the direction we want for our relationship.
Exactly.
It's not something that will bring us closer to God, closer to each other in the real sense of the word. Kaya yung for those who are listening right now, and if you're in a relationship, yun na, if you already feel the need, hindi, I can do it by myself. O, nasa na yung Diyos sa relationship?
Yes.
So, yun.
Sabi nga niya, isa sa mga dangerous prayers, the same priest that she was talking about, sabi niya doon na one of the dangerous prayers that we can pray is to ask for strength. Sometimes you say, Lord, give me the strength. Lord, give me, strengthen me.
Strengthen me na hindi na ako mag-masturbate. Strengthen me na hindi na kami engage in premarital sex.
Exactly.
Strengthen me that I will not look at pornography anymore. Yun yung dangerous.
Yeah, because the danger of that is you're placing yourself to be still in control. I'm praying to you, Lord. I trust you, pero bigyan mo sa akin yung strength mo para gawin ko yung sa tingin kong tama. And so, sabi nga yan, we always have to check our hearts. And siguro yung last messages ko namin, people will maybe look and listen to this na sobrang old school na yan, sobrang hindi na applicable yan sa panahon ngayon. You know, especially the virtue of chastity. But the virtue of chastity is not a suppression of our sexual desires towards each other. Kasi yung sexual desire naman, it's a God-given gift for us to have, but it's a gift to be unleashed in the context of marriage.
Yes.
And sa practical sense na lang, no, in chastity kasi is seeing the real good of, the real value of the person that you are with. Chastity is hindi ka pinipigilan nito, but rather dinadirect ka sa talagang beauty of what sex is. And to be practical na lang din, yung premarital sex kasi for us men, the way we view it, kapag ka na-engage kayo dyan, sa mga babae, I'm speaking to you, you know, for us men, when you are engaging in premarital sex, it's a way for us to delay marriage.
Delay
marriage. But for the women, they think that it's a way to secure marriage. So ngayon, ilang taon na kayo magkasama, sa 10 taon na, 10 years na, di pa rin nagpo-propose sila eh. Because it was already given. And like what I always say in the podcast, like what we always remind, Christopher West during our class sa theology of the body, he said something that, why would you date a guy who's willing to have sex to someone he's not married with? Kasi ikaw yun, di ba? Nagka-premarital sex kayo. Willing nga siya to have sex with someone he's not married with. What assures you that when you do get married, you would not do the same?
Do it. Yes.
So, I mean, again, it's about knowing our worth. It's about knowing the real value of our body, the real value of the beauty of chastity. And we can attest to that as our last point for this is yung chastity, hindi lang talaga yan.
It's not just about sex.
It's
not
just about
saying no to
good
sex.
vibes with the Catholic sense.
That's what we experience in our relationship, is that chastity is not just saying no to sex, but chastity allowed me to love Jared for who he truly is without filters that I would place because I want him to be a certain way or I want myself to be a certain way. So when we finally said our vows at the altar, I was able to say yes to Jared, to marry him as a whole, and not only parts of him that I like about. And then what we also realize and what we're enjoying right now is that the seeds that were planted in our relationship, hindi namin nakita yung fruits while we were dating.
Yeah, parang hirap talaga. Disclaimer lang din, mahirap talaga. As in talaga. Gusto mo lang sabunutin sarili mo naman.
But one thing that we can really truly attest is na yung fruits hindi namin nakita nung nag-date kami. Yung fruits nakita na namin nung kinasal na kami. The fruits of waiting, the fruits of the virtues na sinasabi namin, yung temperance, yung prudence, yung justice, yung courage. Ngayon namin na-appreciate. And for me, I think that yung being able to experience it now makes it even more beautiful and makes it even more encouraging for those of you who are having a hard time in wondering kung kailan darating yung fruits ng paghihintay nyo. Kung kailan na, when it's the right time. Right?
God's perfect time. That's very beautifully said. Nako.
Sayang.
Nako, brothers and sisters, I know na marami sa inyo ang napalinawagan. Oh my God.
Naliwanagan.
What does that mean?
Naliwanagan.
Naliwanagan.
Enlighten.
English naman. Wow. Nako, wow. Brothers and sisters, I know na marami sa inyo ang na-enlighten at napaisip din sa mga points na sinabi ni Jared at Apple. Now, before we move further at mag-close na ng session na ito, where can we hear more of you? Please invite our audience.
We are inviting you in the Langga Speaks podcast where we talk about family and everything in between. You can check us out on our website. Nandun na lahat, langgaspeaks.com, or wherever you consume your podcast. We are in Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts, and everywhere. So, yun po.
Thank you so much, what's the language? Madamo gid nga salamat. Oh, I'm trying trying to use the Ilonggo words, Jeric and Apple, for giving us an enlightenment in these very pressing issues on dating, relationship, and all.
Maraming salamat.
Thank you so much.
It is a pleasure to have you. Alright, so brothers and sisters, we hope na nag-enjoy kayo sa session na ito because we did enjoy this session at marami kaming nakuha din. Hopefully kayo din nag-take notes and yes, we will be moving forward to our next session tomorrow. See you tomorrow sa ating second session on effective budget.